Okay, let's dive into this nice book kindly offered by Frau Antje, page by page, concerning Jesse James. Some people believe that he was a bandit, a gangster, but he considered himself as a social reformer. Now, the first section of this book deals with the English language, and obviously you have to know the IPA keywords, the vowels, the cardinal vowels of English. There are seven, contained in the seven words: fish, pen, hat, sun, box, book, Lipton. The last one being a schwa, a very weak sound, like point mort. You combine these vowels and obtain diphthongs, long vowels, triphthongs, and then you move to the consonants. Compared with Arabic, English has got the V sound, the P sound, but it lacks the dot sound, etc. Now, English has got two varieties at least: RP, received pronunciation, Queen's English or King's English, and General American, I wanna win. Sure. This is the difference between English and American English. Now, you hear also things like, I'm not gonna go, I'm not going to go in America. Also, you have the stress, which differentiates verbs from nouns. So, for instance, you have convicts and convicts. A convict is a noun, convict is a verb. The phonological structure of English allows sequences like boundary V and then final boundary CCC, which is impossible in Arabic. Now, moving to morphology, that is the structure of the word in English, you have affixation like joy, enjoy, enjoyable, enjoy. And the best compounding, as you know, is foot and ball, football. Now, the syntax of English is an SVO language, so you say things like, the boy plays football. Now, this language has got famous people, the IPs and famous quotations by these people. So you find, for instance, in England, Shakespeare with his famous quotation, to be or not to be, that is the question, right? And in America, you have the dollar, in God we trust, with the American pronunciation. Now, moving to the history, because I believe that any language, just like an empty glass, I drink tea, you have to fill it with tea or orange juice or something. So every language contains a certain culture. And the best part of the culture is the history, because as Ibn Khaldun said, the present looks like the past, just like water looks like water. So in the past, you have to talk about the Celts, the original inhabitants of the British Isles, but also the northwest of France, la Bretagne, avec Rennes. They speak a different language, totally different from English. So we'd hear in Irish, Caid Mela Forcha, as was well dealt with by our friend, filmmaker Bob Quinn. Well, after a while, the British Isles were invaded by the Romans, who brought in Christianity. And at the time of the King Richard Lionheart, became the big defender of Christianity. And it went to war with the Muslims in Palestine and faced Salah ad-Din. It was strongly Catholic, but with the advent of King Henry VIII, it will break with the Catholics. Why? Because of some personal reasons, marriage, divorce, remarriage. So the King Henry VIII decided to break the Roman Catholic Church and start his own Anglican Church, Protestant Church. Now, in the 19th century, Britain became so powerful that the Queen Victoria was said to have an empire on which the sun never set. From Hong Kong in the Far East to British Columbia in Canada. And then, unfortunately, came the two world wars, fierce battles between the Europeans. And in the Second World War, a very strong personality came to take office in Britain in the name of Sir Winston Churchill. His quotation is famous. He says, "We need much blood, sweat, and tears to defend ourselves from the attacks of Hitler." Now, moving quickly to America, if you want to be the top class in America, you have to be WASP, White, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant. And therefore, Kennedy was not able to be included in this. White skin and Anglo-Saxon, English, German, etc., and Protestant, okay? One has to talk about the original inhabitants of America, or the Red Indians or Native Americans. The best representative, I think, is Geronimo. He was a strong fighter, but he was also a tender-hearted man, and he was very welcoming to the Europeans, but he was betrayed by the Spaniards. Now, the next race, the whites, or we call them Caucasians, or WASP, call them as you like, cannot be represented by Kennedy, as I said, because he was Catholic, but you can. The Americans are proud of their founding fathers, or the Pilgrim Fathers, those who migrated from England to Leiden in Holland first, and then on the Mayflower to America. There were some 200 men and women and boys and etc., but most of them, or not most of them, unfortunately, some of them fell sick and died, and they were thrown to the sea. So strong mariner used to make fun of them. They would say, "You're going to die, we'll throw you to the sea." But as soon as they reached the coasts of New England, what they would call New England, he fell sick, he died, and he was thrown to the sea. So this was a miracle of the Pilgrim Fathers. Another miracle is that the Indians who were living there had grown crops and tomatoes, etc., but they were stricken by a disease, and the Pilgrims came and took advantage of the situation. Another miracle from God to these Pilgrim Fathers. And then you have the blacks. You could pick up Elijah Muhammad, the leader of the black Muslims in the 60s, and then the advent of Malcolm X, and finally Sour on Ice by Eldridge Cleaver.